Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our live webinar hosted by CRMT and Talend. I'm your host, Rusmir Čulić from the Sales and Marketing Department, and we are very eager to have you all joining us today. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our guest speakers, Natalia Halicka, Talend CEE Manager, and Jason Cruz Falzon, Talend Expert Solutions Engineer. We named today's event From Data Chaos to Absolute Clarity. You'll see that many companies struggle with getting access to complete, clean, and credible data for a number of reasons. And we will have a look at how CRMT is addressing those problems with Talend Data Fabric. Now, speaking of CRMT, right, let me just... There we go. So speaking of CRMT, who are we and what do we do? We are a consulting company incorporated in 2005 and specializing in 4 areas: regulatory reporting, corporate performance management, data management, and robotic process automation, which is the newest addition to our portfolio. We have more than 80 customers from Europe and Americas and more than 200 successfully finished projects. So let's see what the agenda is like. First up, we have Natalia, who will have a presentation on clarity through better data, following with Jason Cruz with his presentation for business and technical users with a short demo. So without further ado, I would like now to invite Natalia to kick this event with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Rusmir. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you very much, Rusmir and CRMT team, to inviting us for this event today. So, like Rusmir mentioned, today really is about making sure that what we can do with our data and how to really get from the data chaos to making sure that we are reusing our data resources in the company. And really looking from the perspective of the beginning of checking really what can be causing data chaos. We are currently living in a very chaotic environment in general. So it's just very important to take advantage of this, what we have at hand, and look at the resources, the data, which is actually in our reach. And it's part of the process is really to realize what is standing in the way of reusing and taking leverage of these data resources and getting more return from your data. So really looking today, as you probably experience in your companies, we have more data than ever, and it's getting harder and harder to manage this huge increase. With more data comes more data locations and sources. Now we know that the average company is actually using more than 400 sources and more than 6 tools to manage it on daily basis. And it's very simple it's not that simple to really keep track all of this data and ensure that entire business is on the same page and is relying on the same data to make the decisions. This in return leads to data quality and data governance issues. What ends up happening is that almost 3/4 of the data in the organizations is not ever being used, and the bad data costs companies on average 30% of their revenues. And this can be many different aspects of how you run the company. So it might be making a decision about bad location because of the bad demographics data, or maybe developers working on the applications that don't really correspond with the customer expectations and then resulting in a bad conversion rate. So it's really a lot of different aspects. And additionally, with so much siloed data and the complex environment that we have now, with each department running their own projects, leading to using different tools in each department, overall slows the organization to make changes. So in the end, if the change cannot be applied and the organizations cannot be agile enough, each decisions are taking longer. Many business units get tired of waiting for IT to help and improve things and try to take things into their own hands. And this so-called shadow IT is as well a huge risk and can really bring a lot of costs to the company. Finally, it is very difficult for the organizations to accelerate with the change of the technology that we can see overall. It's much more difficult to move your data to cloud or take advantage of the latest advanced analytics. And if there is any change in the environment that we have, to discover and upgrade other solutions is taking a lot of different elements to come together, which actually tells us that the digital transformation projects fail quite a lot, and it's very important to have in front of you all of these important steps and aspects of how to make things, keep the things going. And in all of that, really, majority of organizations recognize that the value of investing in their data and getting the value from it is important, but only 30% of them are able to do it efficiently. And it's important to realize as well to whom and on which scale these changes actually make a difference, because it might seem that this data chaos is only an IT problem or impacts only data architects or engineers, but in reality it is the biggest problem for the business, who needs to make decisions on daily basis based on that data. For data architects and engineers, that data chaos may mean that they have to deal with siloed data, fragmented data, and learn to use many different tools, and often resort to manual coding, leading to waste time. For C-levels, the data chaos means that they have to deal with the increasingly cost of data environment, or maybe can't move to the cloud to save the resources, or change from their legacy products. For compliance officers, it limits their ability to trace data lineage and access and ensure compliance in the company. For business analysts, it means that they cannot make good decisions, specifically involving forecasting based on incomplete information. For procurement, that they do not have the complete inventory or maybe supplier information to make the most cost-effective purchasing decisions and influence the organizations in most significant way. From the sales and marketing teams, data chaos may prevent them from proper customer segmentation, better customer engagement, faster customer acquisition. So really depending from the perspective of their campaigns, of their ability to really build the relationship with their customer. For CIOs and CDOs, the data chaos means managing too many of projects, slowing down the overall company initiatives and preventing agility. It makes it hard to upgrade products and protect the environment if we are not sure what data we can use and when. And for software developers, it prevents them from developing optimal internal and external tools to help the business. So as you can see, there are really different areas in each business that we what we have to interact with data each day, and it impacts how we do things on daily basis. And now to really look at the bright side of the of this situation, there are ways to solve this issue, to make sure that if we are already in this situation, how to get out of it, or how to prevent this process, and make sure that we get really clarity with the data that we have in the organization. And how Talend Data Fabric can help to achieve that is to really make sure to get your teams enabled for making fast, but then on the same time confident decisions. With Talend Data Fabric, a unified platform, you can collect the data, govern, transform, and share the data. You can use it on-premise, in private cloud as a fully hybrid solution, or multi-cloud. You can ensure that the data is accessible, aligned with your IT infrastructure, ready to use at any time, and it can be used by everyone in the organization. And how these different aspects actually can be seen or reused in the company is that through these four aspects. So first of all, the collection. So to collect the data across all systems, you can help to discover the relevant data, actually access the raw data anywhere in the organization that might be, using profiling and pattern recognition, documenting and automatically categorizing the data, accessing it quickly with available connectors and components to capture the data anywhere it might be used. The governance perspective, and we mean that with governing data to ensure the proper use and compliance. And that means to document all the data assets you might have them certified, ensure their integrity with the data ownership and masking and quality proofing. And what is very important from the compliance perspective, also to track and trace all the data flows with end-to-end lineage, thanks to which you can actually say where the data came from, when it was touched, and by whom. The transformation, and here meaning the transformation of the data to new formats and improving data quality with creating golden record, this single source of truth which we are all looking for, not only to achieve more efficiency, but to make sure that your data transformation, regardless of how you want to do it, if it's from the big data perspective, the real-time processing perspective, enabling all of these incredible technologies that we have today accessible, involving machine learning, AI, matching or enriching really the functionality of the data that we have in the company. And the sharing, to make really sure that the data you share is trusted. So share data internally and externally to gain better insight and create more useful experience for internal and the external data users, with maybe an approach to reusing APIs or different self-service capabilities applications. And no matter really what the desired business outcome, with Talend Data Fabric, what we are trying to make is to make it easier to enable to take tangible outcomes, and all of these make to really enable you to make all of these decisions to leading to changed and improved revenue, operations, and of course savings, and less cost around it. And on that side, what is different around the Talend Data Fabric? What makes it unique? First of all, it's unified, which means that all the users and really when imagining the aspects of how many different roles do we have in the company, that everyone can work in the single environment. Talend offers a solution that is built in a cloud native platform, can be used as well, as mentioned, on premise or whichever environment that you really that you would really prefer, and makes really a single approach with a single environment. So you can find the data integration, the data quality aspects, features available in parallel. You can make sure that the built-in data quality functionality is embedded into each step of how you move with the data in the data landscape. This means you can discover, highlight, fix data quality issues, and make sure that the data you have is trusted. Flexible, and this is very important from the aspect of seeing what you have now, planning for the future, so you don't have to worry about the architecture that you're working with now. So first of all, you make sure that everything you currently have is available, is accessible, you can connect to it and reuse it. But then as well, thinking about the future, knowing how much the technology landscape, which we mentioned, is changing, that anytime you think about these aspects of what comes next, that the platform would be available to you. And with that, Talend Data Fabric really natively generates code and offers more than 1,000 connectors and components. So you can connect anything to anything, whichever environment, without worrying about the data infrastructure. And very important aspect of growth. So from the perspective of that, you don't really have to think about the legacy systems or technical debt. You don't need to worry that you will not be able to work with the innovations coming tomorrow, that your data integration solutions will get too costly or won't solve the challenges that you have in front of you. And of course, very important, the data volumes, which are significantly growing. And this is something that we see from really all of our customers, that the volumes are really something that it's very difficult to predict, and those are always getting bigger and bigger. So Talend really doesn't have any data penalties, so you don't have any additional charges in terms of the amounts of data and the data sources that you have. With that platform, you can make sure that you focus on the most important things for the business. So the innovation, access to the analytics, serverless platforms, and have a quick integration. And the platform really is an end-to-end solution that includes all different components. First of all, from the perspective of the data processing, to make sure that all the aspects of the integration, the data quality, the preparation, and the stewardship aspects are fully covered. Then, of course, on the perspective of the APIs or the data services that you might use with your applications. And the metadata aspect, the aspects of the inventory and cataloging the data, that really makes the vision of the data that you have in your company complete and gives you the full overview. And with that, as really the last part, I just wanted to share with you a few of our customer stories to really, in practice, explain how did they reuse Talend solutions and what were the outcomes when this aspect of really rearranging, transforming, and sharing the data was applied in practice. And from all of these different customers that we work with from different sectors, facing different challenges. We realized that there are 4 aspects that are really the most significant. So first of all, the aspect of the revenue and how the data can impact revenues, how the companies can innovate, how they can transform the customer experience and lower the costs and risks. And looking at the perspective of the turning the data into revenue, we mean it by transforming massive values of data and with that, really being able to make analysis of that data to stream the revenues and improve efficiencies. And like that, Lenovo built a customer 360 in the cloud utilizing Talend. And they managed to actually build a specific solution to create recommendation system for their customers, achieving 18% increase in attached rate for their ThinkPad laptop series, which actually was till then one of the biggest challenges for their online sales. And by that, they increased by 11% their revenue per retail unit, which for them, from this perspective, was a huge difference on how they would usually work with the data. Innovation. So this is really from the perspective of avoiding the bottlenecks and data quality issues that slow down progress and gain higher levels of agility and speed. And here we were working with AB InBev, and it was really a very extended, amazingly complicated data environment. They not only had 15 SAP instances, 27 ERP systems, 23 ETL tools, which all of that really was caused by the structure of the company of acquiring different entities over time, which all of them were using their own data systems, data solutions. So what they decided to do is to integrate over 100 systems. They reduced the ETL tools from 23 to 1. And all of these things, they seem to be a very technical aspects of working with the data and applying changes to the IT systems, but it actually the final outcome was to have a specific view, a single access to the employees all over the organization, which shortened their development times in the projects by 75%, which in their case actually was a huge save in time, because the average project might have been taking up to 6 months, and now they can be closed in more or less 6 weeks. The transformation aspect, and here we really think about the how to create personalized customer experience based on the real-time data from all the systems that we might use in the organization. And here a great example, amazing project was with Accor, and they decided to store their data in AWS data lake connected to Snowflake warehouse with data warehouse with Talend. That manages over 50 million customers' data, 300 gigabytes of new data per day. And thanks to getting that really centralized, getting this single source of truth, they increased customer satisfaction by elite customers by 12%, and they managed to give the access to the personal data from 30 days to just 5 days. And this is all aligned with compliance and all the data, personal data laws that apply to data. and lowered costs and risks. And this is really, again, coming back a little bit to compliance aspect and privacy standards, and really removing the operational challenges that we face in organizations, taking up new projects or working on a specific compliance aspects. And here I would like to mention AstraZeneca, because from their perspective, it was really important to change something around the clinical trials that they are running. And it was a strategic decision on their side to adopt AWS as a primary cloud vendor and choose Talend for the AWS connectivity, flexibility, and licensing model. And with that, they enabled 90% of the data to be ready for analysis within 3 minutes. They shortened planning cycles from 15 days to 3 hours. And thanks to that, they actually realized that the savings that they achieved were over $1 billion per year to make sure that the clinical trials that they run are not only fast, but as well financially effective. And with that, I would like to thank you. I hope that you found this interesting and useful, and it's just helped a little bit to see these different aspects where we can look for improvements or look for solutions around the data in the organization, and how this can be really solved, how much difference it can make on daily basis for really anyone who's touching the data. And now my colleague Jason will show you a little bit how the Talend Data Fabric platform works in practice.
Thank you, Natalia. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start off just showing you a couple of slides. It will only be a few slides. And then I'll be showing you a bit more about the product. So here, what I'm looking at more is the whole thing of demystifying data. There's very often when you start talking about data, it tends to come across as this mystical piece of information that only certain people understand, and you need these special tools to be able to understand it. But the reality is, there's a company like ourselves, Talend, together with our partners, who help to bring that data and make it completely useful for the businesses. One of the things that we tend to look at is what are the most important data goals. In essence, for every business, what we generally tend to help most with, and what we see the fact that they might want to transform their customer experience. They want to improve on how their customer perceives it, because as you increase on your customer experience, it's very, very clear that your profits and the way that you engage with your customers is going to be more beneficial for your company. Secondly, we tend to look at increasing the operational efficiency, so making automating where possible. And what does this do? These kind of automations generally tend to lower costs. At the same time, what we're doing is we're trying to understand our data landscape, because we want to be able to reduce risk and ensure the compliance. Like they generally tend to say, if you think compliance is expensive, try non-compliance. So we try to help in that way as well. And lastly, what we tend to do is we look at innovating faster. We already saw my colleague Natalia explaining how the platform was able to help other businesses. And the fact is that with constant innovation and constant improvement in the business, with the help of the Talend Data Fabric and all these data tools, then you'll be able to increase the size of your business, how much you're doing business. You'll be able to increase your satisfaction as well. But all this starts with being able to innovate. So one of the things that we generally tend to talk about is this data chaos, because the reality is everything is going quite crazy. So so the partner data can help you to understand and to get the data that you can trust. And that's what we want to do here. What Talend is very good at is being able to offer that strategic partnership that you need to be able to make the most out of the data you're getting and understand it and bring it more. So generally what we're trying to do is we're trying to grab this data chaos and give you the trust in that data. And how do we do that? So we start looking at how the data is limited. So we push it to make it more thorough, to make it more clean and complete. It could be confusing. We want to make it transparent, more accessible, more understanding. It's outdated. We want to make it timely. When it comes to inaccuracy, we want to increase traceability. We want you to understand where your data is coming from, what steps have been taken towards your data, and how it's being used. And at the end of the day, what we want is, we don't want unreliable data. We want to make sure that it's tested, that it's rated, that users can certify the data, and that everyone who's using the data can agree that the data is readily usable. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going through each of the different processes of the data. What we're doing is we're going to understand how we collect the data, understand how that data can be governed, how the data can then be transformed, so you can then ultimately share that data throughout your business. And how do we do this as Talend? As Talend, we do this through the Talend Data Fabric, which is our solution, which is a unified platform. It's a flexible platform that allows you to scale with your business. And it's a platform that ultimately allows you to achieve clarity, agility, and compliance with your data. So generally, when we tend to look at how data moves, we're looking at the raw data that's coming from each of your different systems. This can be from your CRM, it can be from logs, it can be from devices. If you're working in retail, it can be from your POS machines. And what we're doing is we're taking all this data in its own separate format. So this is all the raw data. The first step in the data, what we do is we conform the data. We make sure that the data is all standardized, that the data is all looking how it should be looking, and in formats which are easily readable as well, and can be joined in from other sources. And then what we're doing is we're looking at how to be able to curate the data, to make sure that people and parts of the business can take ownership of their bits of data, and ensure that the other sides of the business are confident with the data that's being produced. Then from there, the data is all reconciled into systems. It might be your personal data, it might be business-related data, it might be e-commerce related data. Then the next step is an optional step, but it's a step which we allow you the functionality to be able to take care of. So here what we're doing, we're looking at augmenting the data and carrying out extra steps, like for example, carrying out statistical analysis of the data. And all these are steps that we help you to be able to integrate easily. And lastly, the one thing that we want to do is we want to be able to share that data. We want to be able to understand the data that we've shared and how that data is all being moved from its raw state to a format which is more, one, compliant, and two, easily readable by the systems which need to read it. And I'm not talking about only systems, but also the actual people as well who need to have the data in their hands. But more importantly than not, what we're looking at here is understanding that the data lineage, understanding how the data has moved through a system, what transformations being carried out through the system is something which is easily readable. So with this in mind, typically the way that the Talend works is the Talend platform is separated into two main components. On one side of the coin, we have the developer components, which we call Talend Studio, and this is an installable component where your developers and your technical people within the organization would be creating all these kind of workflows. We start looking at what Talend Studio would look like and what a workflow generally looks like. This is it. So here, what is generally actually happening is the fact that I'm writing hundreds of lines of code. However, I'm not actually coding anything at all. I'll explain how this works. So Talend, what it is it's what you call a code generator. So here we have a certain number of components on the right-hand side, which we call our palette. And within these components, what we're doing is we're dragging and dropping these components and these functions that each component carries out. When it comes to components, we have over 900 components available. I think it's actually 1,000 now, and literally still growing with the need of each functionality being increased. So typically when you start looking at how jobs work and what jobs do, and how the data flow from a system to a system, what we do is we create these workflows. Now, the workflow that you see in front of you right now is a very simple transformation workflow where we are picking up information from systems. So in this case here, we can see that we're picking up information from our Salesforce CRM, from Twitter, and also from our marketing information from Marketo. Then generally what we tend to do is we do a data preparation. Now, as I mentioned, there are two main aspects to Talend. There is this, which is the developer portal. And the next thing that we have is the actual Talend platform itself. Now here what I'm showing you is Talend Cloud. Now Talend Cloud has a few different components to it. And what I'm going to do is, rather than just show you the cloud and how it is, I'm going to show you how it works in relation to the flow that we're carrying out. So in this case, what we're actually seeing here is we're seeing that our marketing data goes through data preparation. Now, data preparation is a component within cloud. And with data preparation, it's a very, very easy to understand solution where you would upload a data set. A sample of a data set does not have to be the full data set, but it can be. And here what we're actually doing is we are opening up the data, so we're able to see the data as it comes. But the fact is that there's a lot of stuff which you might want to do to the data before it gets to where it's supposed to be updated to. Like, for example, if we're doing a kind of data set where you want to make sure that there's no PII or that the PII has been masked, you would use a solution like data preparation, where you can grab the data from each of the columns and carrying out simple obfuscation just by clicking. So here, for example, what I've done is I've created a step in my preparation where it's literally just masking out parts of the email address. If there's any different kind of issues, for example, if you have stuff like telephone numbers and you want to make them conform to a specific format, then it's just a question of going down into phone and then obviously selecting the format of the phone number. So use with the value, the kind of phone American code that you want, the region code. So it might be American, might be English, German, French, the format international type. And then what this does is it grabs the information available and then presents it in the format which you might want it in. So in this case, if I just go back now, what's happening is we have a certain number of steps that are being created. Now, specifically, I can show you one which has already been curated. You can see that the data has actually been cleaned up on how it looks. Well, we can also see, for example, that the phone numbers have all been formatted to the UK standard telephone numbers. And this here on the left-hand side is each of the steps that the data goes. So what this does is creates is what we call a recipe. Now, this recipe is saved as a recipe, not specific to the data set. So if you have a data set which has the same columns within the actual data set itself, you can reuse the recipe. And the recipe, what it does is it grabs the data and formats it according to each of the steps within the recipe itself. So if I go back here, what this is happening is it's grabbing my data from my Marketo, and it is preparing it according to the recipe that I have set up. And now here what it's doing is it's actually creating what we call a map. Sometimes when you want to move data from one place to another, the general process that tends to come to your mind is, I need to map this process. I need to be able to say, right, this column goes here, this column goes there. And for this, we have a simple component called a T-map, which basically is just a visual. So as you can see at each step of the way, us Talend, what we're doing is we're helping you create all these workflows, which in essence, programmatically are quite complex, in a very simple and easy manner to use. There's absolutely nothing to be scared of in any way. This is just understanding that we decide to help you by showing you visually what's happening to your data at each step. Then what we do is we have a number of different components for data quality. So here what we're doing is we're uniting each of the different data sets that are coming through. We are doing some deduplication to understand if any of the rows are duplicated or not. And then what we're doing is we're sorting them. So we're saying, right, if we have any unique kind of responses from the duplication rule, then we want those to write them to the database directly. But if we don't, then we want to create and push it to another one of our solutions, which is Talend Data Stewardship. So Talend Data Stewardship is a simple solution where each of the different areas of the business can input their can give their input to a specific set of tasks that have to be carried out. So in this case, what we're doing is we are passing the data on to someone who's a business person, and they are able to check that the data is fine, if there is any issues, if there isn't any issues, if the data can be written up to the next steps, yes or no. So what we're doing is we're trying to not just have all the data being controlled by IT, but also having the business people who understand intrinsically the data themselves to see if there's any kind of data missing, and they want to be able to write the data in before everything gets saved for the reporting. And what this does is it tries to include as many people from the business as possible to understand and be able to create a culture of data ownership and a culture of data trust. Now, specifically when it comes to the actual platform itself, there are several other components, but the only thing I want to say is that the Talend platform itself would all be controlled from the cloud. So you don't have to worry about any kind of installations, setting up that kind as well. And here, what we're doing is we're creating all our environments what you would work with. So this means that you can have a lot of number of developers working on the same kind of environments, working on the same kind of number of jobs, but still making sure that your management is in an easy place to do, where you wouldn't have to worry about having it installed in your servers, your upkeep, your maintenance is something that we help you. And this is all part of a unified platform. And I'm trying to be a bit conscientious of time. So with this, I'm going to leave you with my colleague, Rusmir.
Wow, thank you to Natalia and Jason for your presentations. Let me just share my screen with you. All right, so we are now going to the live questions and answers part of this webinar. We have received some of the questions, and I hope that we're going to have enough time to answer all of them because of the time schedule. So let's just address them to our guests here. So the first question we got was that our internal policy is to have all our data on premise, so we can probably not use Talend Cloud. Can someone please answer this question? I don't know, either Jason or maybe Natalia.
Yeah, so basically the way that this works is actually quite simple. Talend, the way that the platform is set up is with what we call engines. So you can either have an engine which processes the data in the cloud, or you can actually detach it completely and install this on premise. And this is what we call a remote engine. So when many organizations say, right, we have a policy where we can have nothing on cloud, what generally they tend to mean is you can't have the data being processed on cloud. And to be able to do this, what we've done is we've allowed the possibility of disconnecting the data processing engine and having that as a piece of software within your own firewall, so that there's no communication between or no data transfer between the Talend cloud and any cloud platform and the internal systems.
Okay, great. So we actually have one more question, and that is, can we force the DQ to be implemented in every step of data flow? The data quality, I presume DQ, right? So can we force data quality to be implemented in every step of data flow?
Exactly. So one of the things that I said is we have over 900 components, and within these components, we have quite a lot of components in relation to data quality. These workflows are drag and drop, and you connect them yourself. So if you want to have 20 data quality components with 20 different data quality rules running sequentially as the data is being transferred from one point to another, you can have them. That's not a problem at all.
Well, I suggest that if you have any further questions, please feel free to send them to our email addresses that you can see on the slide, and we'll be more than happy to answer as soon as we can. Right now, I think that there's just a couple of things I want to say to everyone. I would like to mention our fun giveaway. So the first 5 attendees of today's webinar who will fill out the survey will receive a water bottle from Talend. So thank you again for this giveaway to Talend. There should be a link in the chat, but we will also send it to your email addresses. So we wish you good luck in the giveaway. And I would like to invite you all to Talend Connect World Tour, which is going to be virtual this year on November the 5th. We will send you a thank you email with all this information, including the recording of this webinar and also the presentations that you've just seen today. So that's all for today. Have a great time. Thank you again for Natalia and to Jason. I think this was really insightful and really helpful for everyone. And we'll see you on our next event.